The FIA has just dropped what might be the most polarising bombshell in modern Formula One. A radical shift in sprint race rules is on the table. And this isn't just a tweak or a fine-tuning, this is an overhaul that could flip the competitive order upside down. Imagine it. Max Verstappen, three-time world champion, starting a sprint race in 10th place. Lewis Hamilton, P9. Lando Norris, P8. And on pole, a rookie in a Haas who's never led a lap in Formula One. The lights go out and suddenly the grid is a blender of case, risk and unpredictability. That's not fantasy, that's reverse grids. And it's now on the table for Formula One weekends. But here's the twist. The man pushing these changes isn't a team boss, or a driver, or even a strategist. It's F1 president Stefano Domenicali, and he's not just pushing for reverse grids. He's talking about expanding sprint races to potentially every single race weekend. Some drivers think it's exactly what the sport needs. Others, they think it's the fastest way to destroy Formula One's credibility. This is more than just a sprint format debate. It's about who really controls Formula One. Is it the drivers and the teams who live and breathe the sport? Or is it the investors and promoters who want to turn every weekend into a made-for-TV spectacle? Let's rewind. The sprint race was introduced with one clear goal: make Friday and Saturday matter. Before sprints, a typical weekend looked like this. Friday, free practice 1 and 2. Technical run, setup tweaks, no real jeopardy. Saturday, FP3, then qualifying. The first meaningful competitive action. Sunday, the main race. Fans would tune in for qualifying and the race, but Fridays? They were ghost towns in terms of excitement. F1 wanted every day to feel like an event. The sprint promised to fix that. A short, all-out race on Saturday, points on offer, and the finishing order setting the grid for Sunday. In theory, this meant more wheel-to-wheel racing and less waiting around for the real action. But here's the thing, the first sprints were cautious affairs. Drivers didn't want to risk damage and the reward wasn't worth the risk. A small handful of points wasn't enough to justify going side by side into turn 1 with the guy you'd be fighting again tomorrow for real points. Even Max Verstappen, who won multiple sprints, called them pointless. That's how badly the format was missing the mark. Domenicali and the FIA weren't blind to the criticism. In 2023, they made two major changes. Sprint shootout qualifying, separate from Sunday's qualifying so drivers could take more risks without jeopardising their race start position. More points, rewarding the top 8 finishers instead of just the top 3. And then came the biggest change yet, allowing setup changes after the sprint despite parc fermé rules. This meant if you had a disaster in sprint conditions, you could tweak your car for Sunday without being locked into a bad setup. Suddenly, sprints got better. Drivers took more risks, fans got more battles. But Domenicali wasn't satisfied. He believed the format could be far more disruptive and far more marketable. When Domenicali went on the Race F1 podcast, he didn't just talk about minor tweaks, he dropped 2 grenades into the format discussion. Proposal number 1, expand sprint races beyond the current 6 venues, potentially to every race on the calendar. Proposal number 2, introduce reverse grids for sprints, similar to Formula 2 and Formula 3. In F2 and F3, the top 10 from qualifying are reversed for the sprint race. The fastest driver starts P10, the 10th fastest starts P1. It produces wild racing, surprise winners and unpredictable podiums. But in Formula 1, where the performance gap between teams can be massive, it will be revolutionary and potentially dangerous. Here's where the story gets spicy. The driver reaction to Domenicali's reverse grid idea has been deeply split. Lewis Hamilton, fully supportive. He points to the 2021 Interlagos Grand Prix, where he started the sprint from last after a disqualification and carved his way through the field. He calls reverse grids a fun challenge that forces drivers to think differently, adapt strategies, and give fans something they have never seen before. Max Verstappen, strongly opposed. He argues it punishes the fastest drivers and risks reducing the sport to a gimmick. For him, F1 is about merit. The fastest qualifying lap should be rewarded, not penalised. George Russell, also against it. He warns about DRS trains, where faster cars get stuck behind slower ones with no overtaking opportunities, turning sprints into processions rather than battles. The result? A split grid before we've even seen a reverse grid race. Let's be honest, reverse grids would create chaos. Imagine this. Verstappen starts P10, Leclerc starts P9, Norris starts P8, and Franco Colapinto, P1. The first few laps would be mayhem, but at tighter tracks like Monaco, that chaos could turn into frustration fast. The faster cars might get stuck behind slower ones for the entire sprint. And one mid-pack incident could wipe out a title contender. This is where the tension lies. Unpredictability is great for entertainment, but F1 isn't WWE. It's a sport with real championships, real engineering excellence, and real stakes. Domenicali's push isn't just about racing, it's about business. Sprint races sell tickets. They boost TV ratings. Promoters, especially at new venues, see them as guaranteed excitement. More sprints mean more must-see moments for fans. But here's the dangerous flip side. The more influence promoters have, the less say drivers and teams get. And traditional circuits like Spa or Monza might not survive if they don't bend to the new vision. Right now we have 24 races in the 2025 calendar. A record-breaking number. Add sprints to every weekend, and suddenly you've got 48 races worth of competitive sessions. For fans it might sound incredible. For drivers, mechanics and engineers it's exhausting. Constant travel, more high-intensity racing and no time to recover physically or mentally. The risk? Burnout. And a drop in performance across the grid. If reverse grids become reality, strategy will change overnight. Teams might sacrifice qualifying pace for race pace. Tyre choices could become wildly unpredictable. And for midfield teams, a reverse grid sprint could be their golden ticket to a podium or even a win. For top teams, sprints will become damage control exercises, limiting losses while avoiding chaos. Formula One has always balanced two identities: pure sport, rewarding the fastest driver and car combination; entertainment, delivering drama for fans and broadcasters. Reverse grids tip the scales toward entertainment, risking the alienation of F1's core fanbase. Domenicali is betting that spectacle wins in the long run. Even if reverse grids get the green light, the devil is in the details. And right now, those details are dangerously unclear. Will the sprint race replace Saturday qualifying as the determinant for Sunday's starting grid? Or will it remain a standalone event with its own qualifying session? If sprint results set the grid for the main race, that would make Saturday massively important and could transform how teams approach the entire weekend. Suddenly, every lap in the sprint isn't just about collecting points. It's about securing your position for the main event. That could push drivers to take even bigger risks, knowing one bold move could turn into a front row start for Sunday. But if they keep separate qualifying for Sunday, we run into another problem. The sprint could feel like a high-risk, low-reward sideshow. Imagine a driver pulling off the race of their life in the sprint, fighting from the back to win, only to botch qualifying hours later and start Sunday's race buried in the midfield. That's not just frustrating, it's confusing for casual fans who are already trying to wrap their heads around multiple formats in one weekend. And what about penalties? Would grid drops from Friday's qualifying carry into the sprint or Sunday? If a driver gets a 5-place penalty, does it hit them twice? These are the kind of questions F1 must answer before this format can be taken seriously. If they get it wrong, the sprint could become a logistical mess, one that alienates the very audience they're trying to grow. FIA regulations are one thing, but Formula One is also a business. Liberty Media, race promoters and investors have as much influence as any sporting body. The fear is that drivers and teams, the people actually competing, are losing their voice in how weekends are run. And when business decisions outweigh sporting integrity, the soul of F1 is at risk. We're standing at a crossroads. On one path, Formula One doubles down on tradition, protecting the purity of competition. On the other, it embraces spectacle, risking chaos for the sake of entertainment. Stefano Domenicali is ready to take that leap. The question is, are we? Because once you open the door to reverse grids and sprint races at every weekend, there's no going back. Drop your thoughts below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next big leak.